Here.
Hello again, friends. This is Wurps, the crazy tips and tricks coming at you. First off, if a player puts a roll drone up in the corner of the truck like that and activates it and just leaves it there, if they die, it'll fall down, acting as a sort of soul lamp so you know if they're alive or not, which can be useful if you have one very upgraded carry in the lobby and you need to know if they're alive. Another thing you can do is attach an item to that same roll drone, and it will function as sort of a dowsing rod, showing you which direction they're in. You can also release the item for a high-speed delivery. You can kill the Huntsman at 0 upgrades in the very first mission, consistently, with nothing. All you have to do is bait a shot like this, grab him from around a corner so he can't get you, and then grab him and aggressively roll him. This will cause him to trip, and then you can grab one side of him, either the feet or the head, and use it to just keep bashing him against the ground. This will kill him for free. Just don't miss too many of the damaging impacts, or he will get back up. So here I'm tapping an item to get his attention and make him use his shot, and then I'm rolling him. Even if you mess this up, you do have another window to just stop and reset it, giving you enough time to safely keep trying it until you get it successfully. Then you just bash one side of him into the ground like this for free. Here's a little chart showing the strength breakpoints so that your grab will directly stun the enemy. There are a few exceptions. You can grab the frog and move him around a little mid-jump. And the bow tie is at 7 and the upstream is at 3. Not sure about the spewer's location exactly, but most of this is correct. Important breakpoints are 4, 9, and 13. If you force yourself into sneak mode, which is crouch mode, except you can't stand up properly, you can be super stealthy, and a lot of things will have a very difficult time seeing you. I am using a cabinet, a trophy, and finally a tool here to show that you can do this pretty much on demand in a lot of situations for extreme levels of stealth. It is a little overpowered, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was nerfed at some point. I'll put it in the description if it is. Melee weapons are actually the best ranged weapons. I recommend practicing throwing them as it is quite consistent. There are a few different techniques to do so: the overhead, the side, the whip, take your pick. Now this has not been touched. There is a mechanic where for a very brief moment, after you grab something, it will not take damage. So if you make a mistake, it's better to do it really fast than slow. If you grab this and then slowly try to move it, your chances of breaking it are much higher. It does require an item to have never been touched though. You can see I rammed it into the wall there about 3 times and it only took damage on the last one. Something like this would require extreme care to get out because that is a uranium cup that's very fragile. And if you were to take it slowly and try to drag it down, you might run into something. But if you just jump up and grab it, you can hear it made a crashing sound there because it would have broken without the invincibility frames at the start. You can use the roll drone and inflatable hammer as a combo that works as a dead man's switch against a hidden. If you attach a roll drone to a hammer before a hidden grabs you and just hold it, when he grabs you, the hammer will release, starting an autonomous defense hammer that will repeatedly bonk him until he dies. Here's my first try at it on a headman. Oh, it worked! After final extraction, when the lights go out during the escape phase, all monsters will respawn, will have a 1-second respawn time, and will actively path towards players. This means you need to really fight your way through, especially if you're on later quotas. This is an example of me trying to escape in a particularly annoying setup. On quota 14 with a group, I am fully upgraded, and I had to go through a ton of enemies. So I would recommend doing your last extract on a really close extractor. If you save it for last, you can cut down the trip you need to run through hell to less.
Sorry.
It's actually hell. After last extract, the truck will heal anyone that enters it for 25 health, and if they do not have enough open health to take it, then it just gets destroyed. So heal your teammates before going into the truck and make room for that 25. The Indestructible drone on a valuable will not allow you to use it as a physics weapon anymore, but activatable items still work. It can be a good practice to leave around a few items that are good weapons, such as the crown, ocarina, emerald bracelet thing, and you can use those as a weapon to fight off enemies. Same thing with the clown doll and stuff like that. So if you leave around a few things, you won't be caught defenseless if attacked. Robe, if looked at, will cause him to rapidly accelerate towards you. However, if you don't look at him directly and just edge the corner of the screen to see where he is, you can just walk away and you will outpace him slightly, which will give you enough time to break line of sight and hide under something. Clown dolls are an amazing weapon, be it for physics on any enemy able to stun them, or using them as an explosive after you've used up most of their value to do 250 damage, often killing 2 different enemies with just this one clown doll. That's a lot of value. Obviously I'd be super dead here, but you know. Here's a collection of all of the medium weight items that can be used to stun lock enemies of any size, the propane tank being the exception, as it doesn't stun, I don't think, but it does have the fire effect and the explosive effect for a few other useful things. The clown having both an explosive effect that you can activate by honking the nose 3 times, or just using it as a physics weapon. Some of these do a little bit more damage, like the big cooler on the right and the goblin head on the left do 45 on impact, but are more unwieldy and require a bit of a wrecking ball motion. Others are a little lighter. The flamethrower can be an excellent duck roasting tool. Very easy to position the duck in such a way that you can just immediately stun lock and roast it in short time. However, the flamethrower is not that effective against the larger enemies. While it will do 15 damage per tick, they will be killing you the entire time, and it will be painful. So I've got 3 tumble launch here, which is enough to easily stun a duck, even if it's enraged, and tumble it around. This will knock it out of its enraged form and make it take physics impacts, allowing you to kill it, and other small enemies. This works against other enemies as well, hitting them for 15 damage, and you would need a running start if you don't have any boost. I see people sleeping on the extraction tracker all the time. This thing does not cost very much. It's like 6k, which is a fraction of what an upgrade is going to cost when you're kind of deep in the quota, even past 5 or 6. I would say if you see this, just grab it. It's only like 6k. It's useful enough. It saves you time, and time is money, so that means it saves you money. So what if it's not a crazy amount? It only costs 6k. It only takes 1 inventory slot. Someone's going to have an inventory slot. Say you run into the very common situation where you're trying to sell a bunch of big stuff and there's just not enough room on the pad. If you have a zero gravity drone, you can put it on some big item and just gently thrust it up there. Just have it float just slightly up there. It's fine. It'll count. You'll get the money. You'll get the drone back. And if you avoid putting it all the way to the super top of the whole extract tunnel, which is quite high, I'll show how tall it gets here. As long as you don't put it super high up, you shouldn't have any problems with your items being destroyed. The large pads being completely overcrowded is a very common issue in higher quotas, so this is a nice little trick. I highly recommend someone in your game get funneled all of the tumble upgrades to get a stamina-free method of just hurling yourself across the room every few seconds. It is very difficult to die as this if you are properly running away from the enemies and don't go off cliffs. This spamming right here, this is only 4 upgrades. You could get much more. Some heavy objects are just outside of your range to carry them into the cart, but what you can do is rotate them at an angle like this and just roll them right in. Now this won't work for some things like the cubes, but the cubes can be pushed. You can either grab them and then push your body into them to move them around without damaging them much, or you could push them around with the cart to also not damage them much, assuming you're careful at all, which I am not being, but I am sort of just slamming it in there right now. That's all the tricks. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, watch all my other videos, all that, leave a comment, etc.